This is America, ladies and gentlemen, where assassination attempts happen on presidents. So the conversation is America safer than Africa? We're going to talk about this particular event, what happened, some of the details around it, and how the Global Peace Index actually looks at the continent of Africa, specific countries on the continent of Africa, and the United States, and where they all rank. We've had a lot of conversations throughout the last couple of years about how safe or unsafe the continent of Africa is. There's been many conversations online. We've talked about it on live. You know, there's been a coup attempt in Sierra Leone last year. There were a couple of coups in West Africa, Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Niger over the last 4 years. And this has led to folks being very worried about whether or not they should come to the continent of Africa. Is it safe? Is it not? And so the question is, for those of you who are wondering if Africa is safe, you should be asking yourself, is America safe? So we're going to get into this story really quickly, and then we're going to talk about what that means versus the continent of Africa, because I think it's really important to discuss these things in context, right? I think there are a lot of questions that people ask themselves, but they don't think about the context, right? They hear about, you know, political uprisings. They hear about, folks dying in a, in what would be a peaceful protest. What happened in Kenya, what happened in Sierra Leone 2 years ago, what's happened in other places when they're having protests. There's always conversations about how safe Africa is. People always ask, is Africa safe? Should I go there? What countries should I go to? What countries are safe? What countries aren't safe? And I think it's really important to talk about it with this context in mind. So before we do that, though, I do want to go through the details of this specific incident because I think it's important to discuss what actually happened, right? So on July 15th, 2004, 2024, and not July 15th, sorry, on July 13th, was it July 13th? July 13th, 2024, an assassination attempt was made on the former President Donald Trump at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Here's what we know so far. The incident, about 6 minutes into his speech, shots were fired. He was hit in the ear. He ducked to the ground. Secret Service agents rushed to him. The former president was quickly escorted off stage and into a vehicle. A couple of other things. Many people are speculating that this was staged. I even saw Amanda Seales, a prominent news commentator online, but also an actress. You might know her from Insecure, or I best know her from My Brother and Me, where I used to watch, I think it was on Nickelodeon back in the day. But she seemed to think that this was staged, right? There are some folks who are also posting that this was staged. What we know today is that there are other folks that were involved in this incident in terms of injuries and loss of life. So let's talk about the shooter first. The FBI has already identified him. Not going to give him glory by naming his name here. He was a 20-year-old from Bethel, Pennsylvania, Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. He was a registered Republican, but actually had donated $15 to Act Blue, which is a liberal campaign group. They send out emails all the time, make it easy for you to donate. So he did donate to that group in 2021, but registered as a Republican right after that. He did purchase ammunition on the day of the rally. He opened fire from a rooftop of a warehouse building that was less than 200 meters from the former president. That was right outside of where the rally was. In terms of casualties, there was one audience member that did experience loss of life, and 2 others were critically injured. Trump himself suffered a bullet graze on his right ear, which is described as piercing the upper part. In response, the Secret Service sniper did take the life of the man who perpetrated this incident at the scene. The FBI is conducting an active investigation currently. The motive of the attack is still unknown. Of course, the aftermath is that Trump is reported to be, quote unquote, doing well, according to a statement from the Republican National Committee website. The Republican National Convention is meant to take place and in its entirety on time. And Trump is expected to give an accepted speech on Thursday. In terms of the investigation, the FBI is working to determine the shooter's motive and whether anyone else was involved. They're asking for public assistance through a tip line, and that tip line is 1-800 call FBI. So this assassination attempt obviously has shocked the nation and raised questions about security and for political figures. The investigation is ongoing, and more details may emerge in the coming days. So let's talk about this, right? Um, Apparently, for about 10 minutes or so, people had seen this guy climbing onto the roof, what they call, I guess, army crawling across the roof. They mentioned he has a gun on him. There are people who have video recorded what he's doing. He sets up his gun to shoot. People are saying they're trying to get the attention of Secret Service. They're trying to get the attention of police. Apparently, many people had tried to do that, and that was not done. And so, there are a lot of questions as to how this can happen in a country like the United States, where there were already two assassinations on presidents previously and another assassination attempt where a president had been shot in Ronald Reagan. So obviously, Kennedy and Lincoln both were assassinated while in office. And then you had Ronald Reagan shot while in office as well. And so you would think by this point in time, America is a country that this could never happen in. And so, why is this important? Why are we talking about this? Because people are always asking if Africa is safe, right? Like people just talk about the continent in general. Is Africa safe? And they'll ask me specific questions about specific countries. Like a bunch of people were like, I'm not going to Sierra Leone because there was a coup attempt. People were very scared to go to Sierra Leone last year in October because there was a coup attempt. Let's talk about safeties. Now, the Global Peace Index is something that comes out biannually, as far as I understand, every couple of years or every year. And they talk about what countries are safest and what countries are not so safe. And to be clear, there are countries in Africa that rank dead last or further in at the end of the spectrum. But there are countries in Africa that rank in the front of the spectrum. And just to be clear, the United States is ranked 71 out of 196 countries, I think, are the number of countries that they look at. So the United States is a little bit under 50%. So they're under the halfway point in terms of quote unquote safety, according to the Global Peace Index. So I want to pull up the numbers and actually talk you through which countries in Africa are actually safer than the United States, according to the Global Peace Index. So give me a moment here just to pull it up, because I do want to make sure I do not call these out incorrectly. So let's walk you through these right now. So like I said, US is ranked 71st. Mauritius is considered the safest country in Africa. It's ranked 23rd globally per the Global Peace Index. Equatorial Guinea and Malawi are also noted for their safety, and they're ranked under the 40s. Botswana is ranked 42nd. Sierra Leone is ranked 47th. Ghana, so Sierra Leone has actually surpassed Ghana as a safer country even after the coup attempt last year. Sierra Leone is ranked 47th globally. Ghana is ranked 51st globally. Senegal is ranked 52nd. Madagascar is ranked 55th. Namibia is ranked 56th. The Gambia, which I've also been to, is ranked 59th. And Zambia is ranked 63rd. Now, there are a couple of other countries which I'm not mentioning here that are ranked right around the United States. But let's be very clear. I just named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 countries in Africa that are ranked ahead of the United States. There are another 5 that are ranked within 5 of the within 10 of the United States. And so that's at least 15 countries on the continent of Africa ranked higher than the United States in terms of safety. Now, let's also be clear. Countries like Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso. Now, the reason why they're not ranked higher than the United States in terms of safety is because they had successful coups. Now, in those instances, the general population and the general public did not really feel the effect of those coups in terms of violence. They were operated in a way that kept the general population generally safe, right? But because the Global Peace Index looks at a number of different things, a country that's gone through a coup, they would consider not safer than the United States. But as you guys know, I go live with an African Stream once a week, and we went live last week with the team from um, sorry, with Inem Richardson, and she had been in Mali, and she had been in Niger, and she experienced no safety hazards, no challenges, no issues, and talked about why she believes that the way that what these countries are described is absolutely incorrect. I think she did a great job of talking about what she experienced there, and because those coups went off successfully, and of course it was not something that the West was excited about. If you'll notice, most of the countries on this list are countries that like ranked higher than the United States are all countries that have a really great relationship with the United States. And so, or many of them have really great relationships with the United States. And so, I would imagine that also has a lot to do with how they're ranked because they're positioned as countries that are less problematic. So, I thought it was really important to talk about those countries and how they fare against the United States. Considering that the United States, the stat that I've heard recently is that there are four guns per person in the United States, meaning that I mean, obviously not each person in the United States has four, but the stat, as far as I know, don't quote me on this, is that there are enough guns in this country to have four per person. And just to keep in mind, the United States has over 300 million people in the country. So I think it's really important to have that kind of context when we're asking the question: Is Africa safe? Is Africa safer than America? Um, Regardless of wherever you fall on the political spectrum, you know that we don't talk about my specific politics often on this channel, and I won't really talk about it here. If you know me, you know how I feel about all of this. I'll tell you right now, I'm not happy at all with the candidates that we have in place. Just put it that way. So we'll start there and we'll leave it there. But I think it's important to understand that this is something that we should really look at through the lens of um, the global peace index and safety in general, and not just what you hear on the news. It's funny, right? Become so numb to the number of mass shootings in the United States. I think if I remember hearing on average, there's a mass shooting per month in the United States because that's just one. It's when more than a few people. I can't remember what the number of people who experience that are shot at, or a number of yeah, the number of people who are shot at or shot. Um, but there's at least one on average every month or so, if I'm not mistaken, even more frequently than that. And that is just not the case in most of the continent of Africa. Are there places in Africa that are less safe? Obviously, the DRC right now, where there's a civil war happening, there's many parts of that country which are not safe. I would say eastern Nigeria, where Boko Haram had been set up, is not safe. There are certain regions in some of the countries that I've named previously where there are militant groups set up, and they're working to eradicate those militant groups where they are not safe. But in general, the capital cities, the places that you know that you've heard of, they are generally safer than many of the cities, including the United States' capital city, much safer than what you would find here in these contiguous United States. So I just thought it was important to call that out. This is obviously a topic that's everyone is talking about right now. What happened the other day? He's also picked his vice president as well. The Republican National Convention is happening this week, so a lot of news is happening in America. But I thought I would tie that news into how we look at the continent of Africa, because if we are going to be making judgments about the continent of Africa, we should probably apply those same viewpoints and rules to the United States. And so with that, I'm going to leave it at that. I know I went late I went live really late today. I'm on a college tour with my nephew. He's actually in the room here. And so we are going to be on the road. I was not able to go live at our normal time. But as always, please share this with anybody you know who wants to know if Africa is safe. Right? That question is always coming up. So this is a quick way to get them something that they can watch. It's not a long video. It's 16, 17 minutes as of right now. Maybe max it'll be 20 minutes. They can watch this video and learn a little bit more about whether or not Africa is safe. So with that, I will say thanks for watching, and we will see you guys all on the next video.